Okay, so let's dive into Numbers chapter 28 for this deep dive.
Right. This chapter gives us some, well, incredibly specific instructions for the Israelites regarding their offerings. Really detailed stuff.
Yeah, it's fascinating just how detailed we're really focusing on what they had to offer and when.
Exactly. And the core idea, the phrase that keeps coming up, is presenting these offerings by fire at set times as an aroma pleasing to the Lord.
That phrase, an aroma pleasing, it hits differently when you see the level of, well, precision required. It's not just offer something nice.
Not at all. It's very prescribed.
So let's start with the most basic one, the one that happened all the time, the daily offering. What did that look like?
Okay, so the text lays out a regular burnt offering every single day, non-negotiable.
And what was it?
It was 2 lambs. They had to be a year old, specifically, and importantly, without defect.
Without defect. Okay, so 2 perfect year-old lambs, one in the morning, one in the evening.
That's it, every day.
Yeah.
Like a baseline rhythm for their worship.
And that without defect part, why do you think that's stressed so much? Is it just about, healthy animals?
Well, it's partly that, but it's more Semitic, I think.
Mm.
It represents offering something whole, pure, unblemished, sort of bringing your absolute best to God, perfection reflecting the divine.
Makes sense. So the best possible lambs, morning and evening, were they offered just by themselves?
No, they came with other things, grain and drink offerings.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the text specifies the amounts too. For the grain part, with each lamb, you needed a tenth of an ephah of fine flour.
Fine flour specifically.
Yes, mixed with a quarter of a hin of oil from pressed olives,
Okay.
and then a drink offering, a quarter of a hin of fermented drink poured out at the sanctuary.
A tenth of an ephah, a quarter of a hin. I mean, those are old measurements. Any idea what that translates to, roughly?
Roughly, yeah. A tenth of an ephah flour is maybe around, say, 3 or 4 pounds, and a quarter hin of liquid is about a quart.
Okay, so not huge amounts, but very precise amounts for each lamb twice a day.
Exactly. Precise. And the text actually calls this the regular burnt offering instituted at Mount Sinai.
Ah, so it connects back. It emphasizes this isn't new, it's foundational.
Right. It's reinforcing that continuity.
Okay, so that's the daily pulse. What happened on the Sabbath? Did things change?
They did,
Hmm.
but it wasn't a replacement. That's key. It was an addition.
An addition.
Yes, the text clearly says, in addition to the regular daily burnt offering and its drink offering.
Gotcha. So you do the normal morning and evening lamb plus something extra for the Sabbath.
Correct. The extra Sabbath offering was 2 more lambs, again, year old, without defect.
Okay.
And they came with their own drink offering, plus a larger grain offering this time. 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil.
2/10. So double the grain offering compared to the daily individual lamb. That makes sense if there are 2 extra lambs.
Precisely.
So on a Sabbath, you'd have the morning lamb, the evening lamb, and these 2 additional Sabbath lambs. That's 4 lambs total for the day.
Yeah, it effectively doubled the main animal offering for that day. It
Yeah.
marked the Sabbath as special, a day of heightened worship through these additional offerings.
Interesting. Okay, from weekly to monthly, what about the first day of the month, the new moon?
Ah, the new moon. That's another step up scale-wise, significantly larger.
How so?
The burnt offering for the start of the month involved 2 young bulls, 1 ram, and 7 male lambs a year old. And again, all without defect.
2 bulls, a ram, 7 lambs.
Oh.
Wow, that's quite a collection.
It is.
Yeah.
And just like the Sabbath, the text stresses this is besides the regular daily burnt offering. The daily one always continues.
Right, the baseline is always there. What about the grain and drink offerings for, that many animals? Did they scale up too?
They did, but interestingly, the amounts varied depending on the type of animal.
Oh, how did that work?
So with each of the 2 bulls, you needed 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil and half a hin of wine for the drink offering.
Okay, 3 tons for a bull.
Then for the ram, it was 2/10 of an ephah of flour and a third of a hin for the drink.
2 tenths for the ram.
And then for each of the 7 lambs, it was the same as the daily offering amount.
Yeah.
1/10 of an ephah flour and a quarter of a hin for the drink.
Wow. So 3 different measurement scales just within that one monthly offering ritual. That's incredibly structured.
It really is.
Yeah.
And there's something else introduced with the monthly offering, something we haven't seen yet in this chapter.
What's that?
A sin offering. The text specifies 1 male goat to be presented as a sin offering.
A sin offering. Okay, how's that different from the burnt offerings we've been talking about?
Well, burnt offerings were often more about general devotion, consecration, that pleasing aroma. A sin offering, though, had a very specific job: atonement. usually for unintentional sins.
Huh, okay.
So including it here with the whole community's monthly offering suggests this ongoing need for, let's say, ritual cleansing and making things right, even on a communal level.
Right. Acknowledging imperfection even within the required worship. Okay, so we've got daily, weekly Sabbath additions, and the bigger monthly offering with that sin offering component. Where does the chapter go next? Annual feasts.
Exactly. It moves into the yearly cycle, starting with Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread that follows it.
Passover. Okay, 14th day of the first month.
That's Passover itself. Then, starting the next day, the 15th, you have 7 days of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, eating unleavened bread, obviously.
And special rules for that week.
Yes, the first day of that 7-day feast was a sacred assembly. No regular work allowed.
A day of rest and gathering? What about offerings during those 7 days?
This is where the scale really ramps up. For all 7 days, every single day, they had to present an offering made by fire.
Every day for a week.
Every day for a week. And importantly, this was in addition to the regular morning burnt offering. The baseline continues.
Okay, so what was this daily offering during the feast?
It was the same large collection as the monthly offering.
Oh.
2 young bulls, 1 ram, and 7 male lambs a year old, all without defect.
Wait, so 2 bulls, 1 ram, 7 lambs every day for 7 days straight, on top of the usual morning lamb.
That's what the text lays out, yes. It's a huge commitment.
Wow, that's a lot of animals and resources.
Absolutely. And the grain offerings matched the monthly scale, too. 3/10 eva for each bull, 2/10 for the ram, 1/10 for each lamb.
Okay.
And like the monthly offering, it also explicitly includes 1 male goat each day as a sin offering for atonement.
So that sin offering element carries through into this major festival week as well.
It does. Prepared daily alongside the burnt offerings. And again, the whole complex is described as being prepared as an aroma pleasing to the Lord.
That phrase again, reinforcing the purpose behind this intense week-long ritual.
Yes. And the 7th, the last day of the feast, was also a sacred assembly with no work allowed.
Okay. So that covers Passover and unleavened bread. What's the last one in the chapter?
The last one detailed here is the Feast of Weeks. You might also know it as the Day of First Fruits, Shavuot, later on.
First fruits, so connected to the harvest.
Exactly. It was the time for presenting an offering of new grain. And like the other big feasts, it involved a sacred assembly and no regular work.
And the offering requirement, was it similar?
It was. The burnt offering for this day was, again, that same significant set. 2 young bulls, 1 ram, 7 male lambs a year old.
The same pattern, 2 bulls, 1 ram, 7 lambs. Described again, I assume, as...
An aroma pleasing to the Lord, yes.
And the grain and drink offerings, following the same scale.
Precisely the same. 3/10 flour for each bull, 2/10 for the ram, 1/10 for each lamb, prepared with their drink offerings.
And let me guess, in addition to the regular burnt offering.
You got it. In addition to the regular burnt offering and its grain offering. Plus, like the monthly and unleavened bread offerings, 1 male goat for a sin offering, for atonement.
So, looking back across the whole chapter then, daily, Sabbath, monthly, the Passover week, the Feast of Weeks, there's this incredible consistency in the structure, isn't there?
Definitely. You see the themes repeating. Specific animals, always perfect, without defect. You see these very precise quantities for the grain and drink offerings, scaling up with the animal's size or importance.
And that constant refrain, many of these bigger rituals are, in addition to the daily baseline, worship layering upon worship.
Exactly. It paints a picture of a very demanding, very structured, and continuous cycle of communal worship defined by these offerings. There's not much room left for spontaneity in this prescribed schedule.
It's almost like a divine calendar spelled out in offerings. The sheer repetition and detail is striking.
It really is. The scale, the regularity, the precision, it leaves you wondering.
Which brings us to a final thought, maybe for you listening to consider. What does this level of almost obsessive detail, this meticulous repetition in required worship, actually signify?
Yeah, what might it tell us about how devotion or maybe obedience was understood or emphasized in this ancient context? And how does that phrase, an aroma pleasing to the Lord, land when it's tied so directly to these very specific repeated actions?
Does the pleasing aroma come from the smoke itself, the perfect execution of the ritual, or maybe something deeper that these actions are meant to represent?
Is it about the outward action or the inner disposition it reflects? Or both? Something to definitely reflect on after this deep dive into the rhythms of worship laid out in Numbers 28.